Kaohsiung, recycling volunteers shared their touching stories with the master in a sharing session. In Guangdong, China, Tzu Chi volunteers head to Denggang Town for the first time to send winter warmth. Selamat datang ke DaAi Headlines, saya Simon Gan. Terima kasih menyertai sesi berita kita. In Kaohsiung, Dharma Master Cheng Yen had a warm meeting session with the recycling volunteers. Volunteers also shared their touching stories with the master. Let's take a look.
The recycling volunteer has rubbed gauze around her fingers.
I tear plastic bags every day and my hands get dirty and cold. My hands get cracked, so I rub it. This way, I can continue to work.
Jiangshan Recycling Station, which used to process plastic bags from Shenzhen Harbor, has moved several times. However, volunteers did not give up.
In the early days, we did not have a recycling station, so we borrowed venues from schools. We did it at Fengshan Junior High School, Yongfang Elementary School, and after that, we established Jiangshan Recycling Station.
Volunteers made banners to promote vegetarianism, and on the recycling truck there are small environmental protection stickers.
We can stick them behind our helmets, so everyone is a mobile recycling vehicle.
Feeling for the hard work of the recycling volunteers, entrepreneurs have donated a recycling truck.
The car is more than 20 years old. I said, how is it still usable? I told my husband we can use this opportunity and change to a new car.
Protecting the earth with their hands, the recycling volunteers hope to inspire more people to join their ranks.
In Kaohsiung, a year-end blessing ceremony for recycling volunteers was held recently. Over 2,000 volunteers participated in the sutra adaptation performances, ranging from 19 years old to 90 years old. Here's more. In the year-end blessing ceremony for recycling volunteers, the cute volunteers sang on stage on how much fun they're getting by doing recycling. The Great White Ox cart represents alleviating the sufferings of all sentient beings. Although it might be a tough job, volunteers are determined to do it.
For us recycling volunteers, we carry out recycling works 365 days a year, just like an ox, never resting.
As they made their vows with their most sincere heart, these recycling volunteers are very firm on their bodhisattva paths. Over 2,000 recycling volunteers used their time after doing recycling works to practice the sutra adaptation performances. Their ages range from 19 years old to 90 years old.
I hope that more young people can participate in recycling works, because by doing so, our earth is able to turn into a better place.
This is to make our earth cleaner.
We need to do our part for the master, then we will be valuable.
It is hoped that these purest and kind-hearted bodhisattvas may encourage more people on their mission in safeguarding the planet, making our Earth a better place. In Singapore, the Tzu Chi Humanistic Youth Center is celebrating its one-year anniversary. The Jing Si Books and Cafe invited a German chef to demonstrate how to prepare delicious and easy Western meals using Jing Si food products. Let's join them there.
If you only eat Tzu Chi's instant rice according to directions, then you have not lived. Today, Chef Daniel Schneider is here to teach you a new way.
I'm going to show you how this is going to work. So basically, one portion of this would...
In cooperation with the Tzu Chi Humanistic Youth Center's one-year anniversary event, the Jing Si Books and Cafe in Singapore invited the chef from Germany to demonstrate how to make Western dishes with Jing Si products.
I might have had a different impression on Jing Si products, but after today's demonstration, I saw different ways I can use the products. It makes me feel that making vegetarian dishes is very natural and simple.
As a chef, I think we are in a very unique position to share our knowledge, to help other people to learn about food, to learn about recipes. We have a little bit of lemon juice, we have olive oil, and some...
Chef Snyder came up with the recipes using these ingredients, which are new to him. But he was glad to, as he is certain that vegetarianism is the way of the future.
It's a cuisine, or it's a way of eating for the future. Me personally, I like to eat vegetarian, I like to eat vegan as well. So this will be the future eventually. We can't continue eating animals in the amount what we're doing now.
Through his expertise, we hope to create more dishes with the Jing Si food ingredients.
Fine dining doesn't necessarily mean expensive and complicated materials. Easy ingredients and recipes without meat can be delicious as well as filled with love.
Also in Singapore, Tzu Chi volunteers have come up with an effective way to promote vegetarianism in their neighborhood. They began providing and delivering vegetarian lunches to help busy people eat a healthy meal on time.
Inside the small kitchen, 3 Tzu Chi volunteers are busy filling the empty meal containers. The vegetarian meal promotion in the neighborhood began back in August of 2020. Although the volunteers are unable to do this daily, they still don't give up any opportunity to do this.
I didn't think too much before jumping in. I just want those who ate meat to know that vegetarian food can be delicious and healthy, to break their misunderstanding that it's just all fake meat.
Each meal is prepared to perfection with delicious dishes and nutritional value. The meals have also helped to challenge the cooks' skills in the kitchen.
It seems hard to promote vegetarianism, so we thought to start small and began in our neighborhood. We looked up many recipes on the internet to make the meals healthy.
We don't want to just provide the daily vegetables. People will get sick of it. When I hear them say, wow, it looks delicious, when they open the lunch boxes, it makes this entire effort worthwhile.
It feels like our mom is delivering a meal to us. The food is good home cooking. When I get a break, I'll go check out the dishes, and it always looks delicious and I can't wait to eat it. Sometimes we don't have time to go out to get takeout food, and so I often will go hungry until there is a lengthy break in my work. The sisters deliver their meals at a scheduled time, so it has helped save a lot of time. I'm so grateful. These past few months, we have eaten well and healthy because of them.
Each meal's container is heavy with the ingredients and the love and intention of the Tzu Chi volunteers.
In China, Guangdong Tzu Chi volunteers went to Denggang Town for the first time to send winter warmth. As the Chinese New Year is approaching, volunteers send them practical and timely supplies such as rice and warm clothes. Take a look.
If it were not for a major event in the town, the gate of the ancestors hall would be rarely opened. It is the first time for Tzu Chi volunteers to come to Denggang Town to send winter warmth. People from all walks of life come to help.
The residents here are in great need of these supplies. Some of them have never gone out of the village, even for the neighboring village. They also haven't been there before. I can feel their happiness, just like hosting a wedding party.
The first thing to do is to move packages of rice. Then I help move those boxes. After that, I serve the elderly people with drinking water.
Many volunteers in the community are mobilized, while Guangzhou Tzu Chi volunteers also came back to their hometowns to help. When they heard the long-last native dialect, they feel extremely warm.
Sending winter warmth in my hometown to form good affinity with the residents.
When the villagers speak Kaohsiung dialect, I felt extraordinarily familiar. Seeing everybody's happiness when they received the supplies, I felt the same also.
A total of 720 households have received the supplies this time. Their lives are quite difficult, especially when the Chinese New Year is coming. These materials are really come in time.
The supplies are of great help, such as rice and cooking oil, etc. You have even sent us clothes to wear. Your arrangements are very comprehensive.
This mutual assistance also passed on volunteers' love for their hometown.
In Zhangzhou, China, 35-year-old Chen Xuefu was originally a breadwinner of the family, but was diagnosed with uremia 5 years ago. He closed himself off and stayed at home for half a year. In 2018, Tzu Chi volunteers started to care for the family and encouraged the family to do recycling. Here's more.
He smiles from the bottom of his heart. It is hardly imagined that he actually suffers from a serious disease. Chen Xuefu, who is 35 years old, was diagnosed with uremia in 2016. Initially, he was hopeful for the future, yet it turned the other way round.
There are two ways to treat this disease. One is hemodialysis, while the other one is kidney transplantation. Otherwise, there's no other way. Back then, I felt hopeless.
The worst case was that he completely lost consciousness and his electrolytes were not balanced. When he arrived at the hospital, he didn't even know who I am.
After his life was saved, he faced the disease bravely. In 2018, because of the affinity of sending winter warmth, Tzu Chi began to care for this family. His heart, which was closed originally, gradually opened.
He got this disease in his 30s and became inferior and stressed. He dare not go out for half a year. When we met him, I thought of how to bring him out and relieve his inner sufferings.
Basically, he goes out to do recycling every week. He can breathe some fresh air. When he comes back, his mood will be better.
Tzu Chi's sisters came to chat with him. He has changed a lot. His health has also become better. He is more cheerful and less depressed.
He would cry when we visit him before, but after we comfort him, his mental state becomes better. Now, whatever there is activity, we will tell him and he will come immediately.
I think Tzu Chi volunteers care for my brother very much, making him more cheerful, which is different from the depressed mood when he was sick before.
Now, Chen Xuefu is optimistic about his illness and suffering, and at the same time he gives of himself to help others. He realized that happiness is actually very simple.
The whole family can stay together every day to pass a simple life. This is what is called happiness to me. In Penang, Malaysia, 80-year-old Tzu Lai Ho, who is living in Butterworth, has been taking the Penang ferry to Penang Island to collect monthly donations for the past 20 years. After hearing that the Penang ferry is about to close, Tzu Lai Ho felt saddened, but she promised to still continue her duties as a Tzu Chi volunteer. Let's take a look at her story.
Now 80-year-old Tzu Lai Ho was deeply moved by Tzu Chi volunteers when she was in Taiwan at the age of 53. After her return to Penang, she got into contact with Tzu Chi Malaysia chapter, becoming the earliest generation of volunteers. Currently, Tzu Lai Ho lives in Butterworth, but she has some donor members who are living in Penang Island. Therefore, she rides her motorcycle and takes the ferry over to Penang Island to collect monthly donations. This routine has never changed for the past 20 years.
In the past, the journey was about 45 minutes, including going on the ferry and off. The ferry journey is about 15 minutes, and the time schedule is quite flexible, so it doesn't matter when we arrive. While taking the ferry, I can also rest. Normally, I wouldn't use the bridge as it's very tiring.
4 years, Tzu Lai Ho took the Penang ferry in order to execute her volunteer duties. But after learning that the service is going to be shut down soon, She felt saddened but faced the reality with positivity.
We know that there's nothing permanent in our life, so I felt normal. We talk about living a new life often. This is a chance for it, and we must adapt.
Although the once memorable port is about to change, but her initial kind thought to volunteer remained the same. For 20 years, she was a dedicated Tzu Chi volunteer.
Master said in the Jing Si aphorism that we do not have a claim on our life, but only the right to use it. So when we're living, we have to use it in order for it to be useful. Honestly, I don't do much because what I'm doing is just collecting monthly donations and going to recycling stations. The master also said that if it's the right thing, just do it. Therefore, I have to continue what I'm doing.
Our life rapidly changes every moment. We must understand gratefulness in order to be satisfied and happy. While the fairy vanishes into history, DaAi Headlines continues her work as she plants the seeds of kindness everywhere she goes.
Due to the pandemic, the local economy in Bolivia was heavily impacted. Tzu Chi volunteers in Bolivia continued relief distributions. This time, volunteers arrived at Los Patos, Porongo, distributing supplies of 37 kilograms to 450 per families. With the supplies, locals may now enjoy a nutritious meal during the Christmas holidays. Here's more.
ayuda que nos merecemos todo lo que no tenemos. Estamos felices, estamos bien.
Y bueno, para los hogares de cada uno es una bendición de Dios, o sea, para poder llevarse un alimento.
Christmas arrives, the supplies sent to locals have made them happy, with gratefulness transcending beyond words. 450 poor families arrived to receive supplies early morning.
Because of the supplies from Tzu Chi, we are now able to celebrate the holiday.
Because volunteers work hard, this allows every family to have something to eat in their household.
This is the 9th relief distribution held by Tzu Chi, a total of 6 items in a package, and within a package, there are 37 kilograms of food. 4 volunteers arrive as if Santa Claus is here.
La maestra siempre me enseña que en la vida no es solo tener las dos palmas de la mano hacia arriba.
What Master Cheng Yen taught us is not only receiving and being grateful. Like today, we have to give to people in need.
A tener las dos palmas de la mano hacia abajo, que significa entregar y ser solidario, como es hoy día.
It's the first time the locals receive gifts under the tough situations brought upon by the pandemic. Everyone seemed to be more at ease.
Bats have long been covered in mystery, and now with their speculated link to COVID-19, they have scared many people. Actually, bats are commonly found in many cities, with 38 unique species in Taiwan. Bats are good at hiding and even live in our homes, but when they are discovered, they are often exterminated. Follow a report as you learn more about this fascinating animal.
In this museum at night, there's a special horror as bats are hanging from the ceiling.
The largest number of bats we had was nearly 1,000. There are about 4 types, and most of them are Taiwan's largest bats, the insectivorous bats such as leaf-nosed bats. In the evening, the bats will actually fly out from the museum through 2 gaps and start to look for food.
What is it like to be with bats? Bats from Sangsan Garden and Old Waterworks Museum fly out every evening covering these local skies.
It's as if a pigeon flies over your head. You can feel it. The sound of the bats flapping its wings is amazing and exciting, creating a sort of enjoyment when it comes to bat watching.
Even if thousands of bats surround you, they will not hit anyone because bats have a unique echolocation system. It's the safest and most accurate way to fly in nature.
The bat's high-frequency ultrasonic wave, which it emits, is more like a reverse radar system. It'll emit a sound, and when an insect is nearby, the wave will reflect it from the insect back to the bat. This enables the bat to know that there's an insect ahead.
The habit of bats coming out at night has caused many to associate them with vampires and has led to public misunderstanding, but science has proven that millions of bats that live near urban and rural homes, parks, and bridges are long-term partners and safe neighbors of humans.
The first thing you can see in the evening is probably the Japanese house bat, which they will inhibit cracks in bark, in gaps in houses' eaves, and even living in air conditioners. They'll then come out at night to find food nearby.
This is Liuchuan, Taichung City. Every summer and autumn evening, there will be a lot of bats foraging for mosquitoes. As we look around, there are many shops and houses. In fact, bats live very close to humans. It's just that most people don't notice them. Why there's so many bats that you and I don't find them during the day.
Those overlapping roof tiles on the roof allow bats to come in and make a nest. It is like a cave for them to come in and hide.
The gaps in the roof tiles or cracks in the beams are places that typically hidden to the naked eye, which are the homes of these bats. Bat babies are as small as fingers. They're waiting for their parents to come back to feed them. Most people think that bats only inhabit caves and tunnels, but in fact, any gap in a building, as long as it can accommodate it, can be a nest. These two bats are cleverly hiding in the gap between the door and windows, and it is really hard to spot if you don't look carefully.
How do they get in a building like this? They go through a gap in the window.
Bats can fly from flat land to high altitude and even to the beach.
Traditionally, bats represent blessings, so temple paintings and reliefs use them as totems. But with the fear of the COVID-19 pandemic, bats have become uninvited guests.
At the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, some people were actually very afraid of bats in their homes.
Bats, which originally did not interact with humans, are now being locked together in cages and have become food for some people. Once people get sick after eating them, they have been blamed for the pathogen.
Everyone's misunderstanding is that bats may be a carrier of coronavirus, but in fact, this is all speculation.
在印尼的中爪哇，苏洛市长下令扑杀当地野味市场贩卖的蝙蝠，好杜绝病毒传染。
Hundreds of captured bats were killed and cremated regardless of whether they had viruses or not.
因为科学研究指出，蔓延全球的 COVID-19 源头正是蝙蝠。
Scientist speculation coupled with media exaggeration made bats a scapegoat of the pandemic. Recent ecological shocks coupled with little conservation in past years has led to fewer and fewer bats in Taiwan.
We're now seeing more and more serious development of nature by humans, letting people to come into closer contact with wild animals. Getting closer and closer may produce a virus we don't know of, which we can be exposed to.
Many believe that bats have unpleasant appearances, but whether we like them or not, we should not deprive them of their right to survive. This is because everything is interlocked in nature, which means that humans should not dominate other species, but instead coexist and prosper together.
Hualien Tzu Chi High School held its 21st anniversary sports day recently, with students trying their best to make their respective classes proud. We'll leave you these images. Thank you and goodbye.